Greetings and welcome. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the Core New Core, licensed presenters. I gotta group those together. Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates and presenters. That would sound better. And then the Core New Core, my patrons. That beep beep was an email from YouTube saying that I'm broadcasting live now. And you can sign up for getting that notification as well. And what? Michael Miller Pilates on YouTube. And also meant for my patrons. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor, given this point of view about what Pilates is and what it means to survive as a Pilates instructor. So, I've been pretty, abstract lately? And so on number one here, twisting, it's just a single word, twisting. But as an instructor, one of the most delicious things I feel in my body is when I can put twist on my spine. And I mean, what kind of range of motion do you want beyond that ability to make torsion longitudinally in your spine, meaning along your spine? And in so doing, of course, be able to create tension that pulls apart. See, here's your spine. It's a bunch of bones and stuff, but it's all meant to be, it's all meant to support the engagement of the musculature. What I want is now I need beads on a string that are held in place by a knot or something, but they stay with where they are on the string. So that when you pull it apart, the beads, there's space between the beads, right? This is what Pilates is doing. It's elongating the spine. And your awareness and knowledge of core new tension puts you just in a whole different league of comprehension about what's going on biomechanically and how you get to developing the body uniformly. Twisting. On the stomach massage, now see, don't do this without proper training. Have papers to prove it. Have insurance to back you up. Have other people's insurance to back them up and you up, right? But just casually speaking, without meaning direct implementation, on the stomach massage, and when the arms rotate from side to side, when you go out and in the stomach massage, right? That's a great place for an assisted stretch if that's allowed and your student would be okay with that, But that assisted stretch on the stomach massage rotation is an assist of up and rotation to help the body reach up and then to make rotation in that elongation. But that's much harder to do on your own until you really have some flexibility in your hips that you can engage in core new tension and be making a vertical reach, hips to shoulders, while you make that rotation. The one that really came to mind to me though was number 2. The short box. the short box. After you're done with flexion, extension, side bending, and rotation and torsion, the stretches that come after that on the tree, after the tree. The straight leg stretch after the tree where the leg pulls across, it's like you're holding a huge wrench. And from wherever you're making contact points are, that's a great place to get torsion on the spine. So when I'm talking about twisting, I'm just talking about getting a good torsion kind of stretch on your spine, and that's a very advanced in terms of progressive patterns, flexion, extension, side bending, rotation, and torsion. But that pattern exists within the choreography, and knowing that rotation and torsion are at the end of that progressive pattern, it's not like something you really reach right into. You make your body's effort at defining the midline. Or maintaining control of a symmetrical expression in the midline plane. And then so I'm just talking about 3 exercises that in their proper place and at their proper time with the proper training can give you good rotation on your spine. So this leads to a story. When I'm done with one lesson and starting another one, and I don't know who I'm about to teach, and never met them, and never really even read much, if anything, of their history, which I know is. But when they're sitting there and well dressed and in a posture where they're grabbing the chair and making twist with their body, is what I'm doing. Well, when they're doing something like this, okay? In that particular moment, with that particular client, I started in torsion, in what she was asking for right there, or doing already. I took her over to the Cadillac, and we did the saw on the push-through bar with the Cadillac, because of the contact points involved and how it would facilitate the kind of leverage she was trying to apply to her body. And then the question is, what do you do next? If the progressive pattern is flexion, extension, side bending, rotation, and torsion, what do you do next as a pattern? If you're going to pick, or if you think of that at all, having started with twist, I think you could start all over in the pattern and go to flexion, go back to levels of difficulty and matters of priority and performance. Flexion. It's life that presses us out into extension. But when we get too far out there, or we fall off a roof, what do? We come right back to center into flexion. Right? So our strength is in flexion, but life presses us out into extension, and it's through the control of that plane of midline that we move through that is of primary importance. Because why? Because if you can't do this and get from here to here before somebody else gets to the food or the procreation, you fail to satisfy whatever it is that's moving you from one place to the other. You could also go from the twist and go to side bending. And from side bending, go to extension, and from extension go to flexion. So you could work the pattern in reverse. It's like a keyboard where, yes, you're meant to go from one end to the other, but if you start at the other end, you can go all the way back to the beginning in pursuit of pattern, or you can start where you are in the pattern and work backwards. And so knowing that, and knowing that you have the choice as to what the next thing you're doing is going to be and how it is represented in the pattern that already exists, it's progressive in difficulty, flexion, and then extension, side bending, and then rotation. Number 2, journal broadcast. This broadcast is brought to you by the same energy from within me that historically has written a log and then somewhere along the line I ran into Pilates, May of 1981, May 31st. I used my birthday that month, 1981. Bob Ferrantino said to me, "Well, you mean Pilates." My point being that the journal I've written forever, and I should say been pressed to, motivated to keep a journal that is merely a collection of snippets of words that are caught after chasing significance of a sequence of words, like a butterfly with a butterfly net. Beyond the wrestle to bring words to paper at all, I lose interest. And what's interesting is that Pilates let me surface and interact with others, and that much of my Pilates now reflects my journal in that I now broadcast this way, extemporaneously, and have found peace with it over the last 1,188 days. And in a similar kind of observation, I guess it comes out to, I guess that should be a title. Number 3 should be making use of what's available. TLT. Making use of what's available. Because Jonathan talked about Joe being interned, so he had time to develop more of his method, to practice his method, to refine what he was doing, where he didn't have to go out and make a living or spend time doing something other than what most interested him. And so that to me is making use of what's available. And in my time when I was at Benhaven and had the space which was my townhouse, I had the space to do a lot of video recording, and the 24 gigabytes on my website. A lot of that it was documented in the space that was available to me at the time. And here, I have the space that I'm so grateful. The master bedroom is over there, and it's not very big, and it has all my studio equipment in it. And then the second bedroom is here, and I live in the master bedroom, or I live in the living room. Makes sense to me, right? So make use of what's available to you at the time. That makes me think of a Pilates instructor that just fell in love with it, and all she could do at first was like have some balls and some bands and teaching the mat. And then that led to the availability of having a low chair. And that kept growing to the point where, it grew as big as she wanted it to. So see, you have something to teach when you teach Pilates. Something that's universal. It's about our biology as human beings and what we can do to continue surviving. See, the way I expressed that was in present tense continuous, surviving. Pilates is about surviving. Joseph Pilates was a survivor. His method is survival training. So in closing, it's amazing how you have to see actions, choices, that in order for them to take on any sense of reflection or consistency of character. This thing about me, writing in a journal, a lot of that's out on the website. Go read what you can if you want. But it's been replaced by broadcasting here live. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I just know that for as much as Joe left, he could have left a lot more to help come to a satisfactory grasp of what we feel we know about Pilates, and that's all meant to help you survive as a Pilates instructor. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Add two and two. Connect the dots. Connect the dots. Evaluate points of view. Know where you stand. When you now know what you know about CT and MMP, don't ever be cowed or intimidated by what you don't know of all that is in the dictionary, and being a new thread in the Pilates culture can be a great advantage because of the choices you have in how you weave that thread. Evaluate points of view. And then add 2 and 2. Recognize the value of what you know. And make a presentation. For 25 cents for 1 minute. And then for 25 cents, you got to get paid first. And then time it, 1 minute. And so when the 1 minute's up, you stop. If anybody's not interested, they won't part with their 25 cents or 25,000. But if they are interested, to the extent that they like the presentation that they already got, you can turn into a teacher or make another presentation for another amount of money for a specified amount of time. It's presenter, teacher, and instructor. The instructor is right in the action of doing things. You ask a person to do and you instruct. In teaching, it's all prefrontal cortex. It's all about thinking. So it's not chasing the experience of complete coordination of being, thinking, and observing. And presenting is merely establishing that you have the ability to present something that you're willing to present for a particular amount of time. Yes, I'll come sing for an hour and 20 minutes. I don't know, how long do singers when they show up? A whole concert? Your presentation doesn't have to be the whole concert. Know what you know, and then add 2 and 2. And out of that, direct your thinking. Geist.